What's up, guys? Gods Unchained has announced that they're going to be releasing a new 20-card mini-set expansion in just a few days. They announced it about a week ago, and you might ask, why didn't you tell me sooner, CopperPitch? Well, I've been in the hospital for the last 7 days, and I haven't got a wink of sleep due to this creature here. But so please forgive me if I forget how to do words or English. But this is gonna be my best attempt at making a video for you guys. So here is video. Also, hey, if you want to take 1 second to vote for me for Blockchain Content Creator of the Year, I'd greatly appreciate it. There's a link in the description below to playtoearn.net where I was nominated again. So thank you guys. All right, let's dive in and break down all the new cards. First up, we got Spirit Storm. It's a 2-mana death spell. It is the same as a Hearthstone spell, actually called Feign Death. It's trigger the afterlife of each friendly creature. Death has a lot of cool afterlives. Things like Siren of the Grave come to mind. Tomb Carver, you can heal for a bunch. You can use Rock Drakes. You can do a bunch of stuff. It does take 2 mana, and you're going to hold it in your hand for a while, and it might be a dead card for a while. So it could be good, but I think I'm going to put it in the, this could be cool, but we'll see. Next up, we have Palace's Wanderwagon. This card has Frontline. After a spell is cast, swap this creature's strength and health. So for Magic, spending 4 mana in order to get a 3/6 out, and then the hope is that on your next turn, you can basically swap the strength and health, smack your opponent in the face for 6. But I mean, it's just a weird card. For 4 mana, your opponent plays a spell, it swaps to become a 6/3, and then they just, trade something small into it. You're spending 4 mana. It's an interesting card design. I like the design. I don't really think it's a great card. I'm going to put it in the meh. Next up, we have the Rain Napper. The Rain Napper is a 4 mana neutral card, and it has Roar. Obliterate a creature with mana cost 3 or less. Afterlife, summon a base copy of that creature for its controller, and it's a 4/3. So you can obliterate one of your opponent's creatures, and then it just gets summoned back after this dies. This is basically like the Doggo, the Watchful Hound, a 3 mana, give order 10, and then when the Watchful Hound dies, they get their card back. It's kind of a cool thing to be able to gain some tempo, but then they just get it back. And the Doggo is kind of better than this. So I'm going to give this not a good review. Next up, we've got the Avalanche Watcher. This one is a very exciting card because it's an Atlantean. It's a 0-cost Avalanche Watcher. Backline, Roar, expend all of your available mana. This creature gains +1/+1 for each mana expended. So if this didn't have the Atlantean tag, this would be in. This card's just bad. But the Atlantean tag, I'm going to bump it up to meh. Basically, on turn 4 or something, you could drop it as a 4/5, which is kind of normal. It has backline, which is weird. It maybe has some cool synergies in the future with backline things. There is like one card that kind of synergizes with backline creatures. The fact that it's Atlantean, you can maybe put some buffs for Atlanteans. It's a magic creature. I like Atlanteans. This could be interesting in an Atlantean deck. Other than that, it's just meh. Curious Wonder Cats. At the end of your turn, remove 3 durability from each relic. So obviously you can't run a relic deck. You're just running this. It removes 3 durability. It's a nether. Nether decks are kind of cool, but I'm going to put it in the meh category here. I think there's cheaper and more efficient relic removal. And 4/3, it's just not very sticky. You'd rather have it be a 3/4. It is a nether, though. Maybe things like Screams can be used with this. You can make a nether deck and draw some cards with your nethers. Next up, we have 5 mana Fir Tree's Fury. This is deal 1 damage to the weakest enemy creature. If there's no enemy creatures, summon a 1/1 Frosty Fruit. Repeat 4 more times. So this is a pretty cool removal spell in that if your opponent has a couple weak creatures on board, it actually does target them as opposed to nature's random removal, which it normally has with things like Canopy Barrage, Primal Guidance, things like that, that just hit random targets. The Hunt. This actually hits very specific targets that you'll know what it's going to be hitting, and it hits them 5 separate times, and it also gives you some creatures, and those creatures are 1/1s that also do 1 damage to the weakest creature when they die. So this could be really cool in Control Nature decks, which right now Control Nature not in a great spot, but there is a card coming up that I'm very excited about that might make this card into a rock star. So for now, I'm going to put this in the this could be cool maybe category, but I think it could be so good, but we'll have to see. Next up, we got Thawed Heart. It's a 2-mana light spell. Obliterate your opponent's void. For each creature obliterated, heal your god for 1. This seems like it could be so good. Basically, you don't have to run Gleam Weavers anymore, which are kind of a waste if you don't want to obliterate your opponent's void. You run this in a control deck for light, and suddenly you get to heal for a bunch. Let's say you're playing against an aggro deck. Maybe they have 5 to 10 to even more creatures in their void. Plus, you get to obliterate it. So if you're against a specific type of deck where you want to obliterate their void, you can do so. And it heals your god for maybe 5, 10, 15. That's pretty big in a control matchup where you're against aggro and you need to heal for a bunch. It's cheap. It's very nice. It's a very nice tech card that you can put in your deck. Next up, we have the Woodcutter Imp, and this card is going to be slammed into the WoW. Now, that's a great card. It might be the best card in this set. It is a 2-mana 3/3 with God Blitz. 2-mana 3/3 with God Blitz. All right, that's already insane. More stats than a 2-mana card should have, and it has God Blitz. So the downside better be huge. After this creature attacks, your god takes damage equal to the damage dealt. So you don't really care, though, if you're War. You're going to be playing this to win the game effectively or to do some serious damage after you already have a nice lead. Let's say you have a Relic equipped, you drop Woodcutter Imp, you slam down Sharpen, it's going to buff your Relic and your Woodcutter Imp all in the same turn. You could do like 15 plus damage in one turn from hand, basically. So Woodcutter Imp is going to be insane. And it basically can also just be a blitzer if you really need one in a situation that you don't have any other blitzers, because God Blitz also means just regular blitz. So it's a 2-mana 3/3 creature. It's going to win you the board. It's going to win you games. It's very strong. This might be the first great God Blitz creature. There is technically like 1 or 2 other kind of stipulation God Blitz creatures, but this is the first real one, and it's an overstated creature, no less. This is a great card. Definitely going to be run in a ton of crazy combo type decks where you can just buff the hell out of it. You can hand buff it with things like Fox's Venture and things like Out of Its Misery. Slam this thing down, do 10 damage to your opponent's face, and GG's. Take the Reins. Here's another very interesting war card. It's 3 mana, but the 3 mana kind of sucks. But the 4 mana, if you empower, so it's 7 mana total, gain control of the strongest enemy creature with less strength than the strongest friendly creature until the end of turn. So you basically get to steal your opponent's weaker than your creature. It's not gonna. You're never gonna use it for that. But if you empower 4, you gain control of any enemy creature until the end of the turn instead. So this is basically a 7 mana charm or anti-magic expert, basically, where you get to steal your opponent's card, whatever you want, whatever their creature, their strongest one, you can grab it, slam them in the face with it, or if you're in a pinch, you can use it to take out their second strongest creature. So you can do a lot with Take the Reins. I'm going to put this in the It's So Good category. I think it's going to be very good, and just it's going to be a nice game closer. It's going to be a nice board clear. All right, Winter's Bounty. I'm very excited for this card. Set your god's maximum health to 40. Heal your god for 20. This is a nature spell for 6 mana. This might make nature control viable again by itself. It's pretty strong. It could be so good. Could be cool maybe. I kind of fluctuate here. I think it's going to be really good. But keep in mind that it does cost 6. However, it's also not legendary, which means you can run 2 copies. So if you can just survive to turn 6, you have things like Charm, Compost Charm heals for 10. You can run 2 of those. That's 20 health you can heal for. Add in 2 Winter's Bounties. Now you're healing for a whopping 60 health. Plus, nature has a ton of other healing. Avatar of Nature. Tons of things that spit out walking plants. Basically, you can heal for a lot. Veil Warden Minotaurs. Control Nature is going to be very viable again, and a lot of decks just can't handle the chore of doing 100 plus damage in one game. So I'm very excited to see that one in action. Next up, we got Candy Chain. This one is weird, but I kind of like it. It's a 3 mana relic For Deception, after you play a spell, shuffle a candy link into your opponent's deck and remove 1 durability from this relic. So basically you get to shuffle eventually over time, hopefully, 5 candy links into your opponent's deck. Candy link is a 0 cost card. It goes into your opponent's deck. It casts when drawn. You discard a random card, then draw a card. Your opponent loses something from their hand and then just draws the next card in their deck. Basically, you could use this in mill decks and it would be kind of cool. Maybe you could even use it along with the Cobra Scepter. You play the Candy Cane first. After you shuffle 5 of these things into your opponent's deck, that relic gets unequipped, and then you can equip Cobra Scepter. Eventually, your opponent's going to draw these cards, which makes them draw another card, and you're milling them, you're making them draw cards, which does damage. So it's a very interesting card. However, Mill Deception is not very strong, and so this right now is meh, but could be cool maybe if we get a lot more support for Mill Deception, which right now just doesn't exist. All right, next up we got Guiding Light. Draw the chosen one from your deck. In Power 3, also give it +3/+3 and Protected. It's a 1 mana spell. So for 4 mana, you can give a creature in your deck +3/+3 and Protected. Compare that to like Out of Its Misery, which is 1 mana instead of 4 to get +3/+3. I mean, 4 is just insane. Chosen One is not a good archetype. So for now, I just straight up give this card as bad. Frozen Rest. Pick 1, destroy your opponent's relic, or target 2 creatures, they go to sleep. This card is deceptively incredible. Basically, this card is going up into the wow, now that's a great card, because this is going to be run in every board wipe death deck. They already want to put stuff to sleep, right? Now, they don't have to run relic removal anymore. This is the sweetest tech card in Gods Unchained ever. Destroy your opponent's relic entirely. Not even remove durability from a relic. This straight up destroys your opponent's relic. And if you don't need that, which against many decks, your relic removal cards are just dead cards and it feels bad to run relic removal, but sometimes you need it against things like the Necro Scepter and the Skull Scepter and things like that, those types of decks, or against infinite durability relics like Lysander's Spear or something like that. But now you can run this, and if you need to save it for the crazy relic you know your opponent's running, you can save it for that. And if you don't, you get to put 2 creatures to sleep for 3 mana. Death Board Wipe is going to love this card. So this is a great card. It's only going to be used in specific decks like Board Wipe Death, but it's going to be run in every Board Wipe Death deck. Then we've got Unexpected Gift. Roar, heal each god for 3. Afterlife, shuffle a base copy of this creature into your opponent's deck. It's a 1 mana 2/2 creature. This again is another great card. It doesn't look like it's that cool on the surface, but control decks in general are going to love this card. Why? Because you get to heal your god and you heal your opponent's god. But who cares if you heal your opponent's god? You just want to heal your own god. And then this card gets shuffled into your opponent's deck once they deal with it. So now your opponent has to either play it, and then they heal you for 3, which again is a massive win for you. You're just trying to outlast them into fatigue. And, you know, you've got massive end game plans. They're meanwhile usually trying to win quickly and early. So you don't care if you heal them. And if they play the card, they heal you, and then they give you another copy and you can play it again. Basically, if they don't play it, then they're just sitting on a dead card. They drew a card that they don't want to play. They're drawing cards that aren't part of their game plan. So it disrupts their game plan. It's a great card. It might just go down into the it's so good category. It's certainly not a Demogorgon or something like that. But it's a really great card for control decks, and I think it will be run in a lot of them. We'll have to see how many. All right, now we are to all of the new champions. Every champion got a new version in this set. So Orfeo in Wanderlands, he's at 3 mana, deadly, hidden for 1 turn, same as before. After your opponent plays a creature, attack it. Wow. Afterlife, shuffle this creature into your deck. So this constantly goes back into your deck, and you can keep playing it over and over again, but it's a 3 mana, and it's a 1/1, and it automatically sacrifices itself. If your opponent just plays any armor cards, they can deal with it. If they play any creatures that costs less than 3 mana. You're paying 3 mana to deal with something that's less than 3 mana. I'm going to give this card as just bad. I don't think it's good. I don't think it gets run. Maybe in very specific situations, if your opponent is only playing very large creatures and they're only playing 1 per turn, you can kind of lock them out of the game. But other than that, that just, I don't know, it doesn't seem very good. Mary Cadmos, 5 mana, 3/4. Light, of course, Lysander was the champion before, but now Lysander is the new god. So now Cadmos, his son, steps up and becomes the new champion. He's frontline, roar, pick 1. Pull a creature from the board to the top of its controller's deck, or give +2/+2 to the chosen one. As established before, chosen one is just bad, so that's not what people are going to use it for. It's going to be used for the first option 95% of the time. Pull a creature from the board to the top of the controller's deck. So you can basically use this to bounce a card off your opponent's board, much like Wrong Path. Wrong Path basically is a great card because then your opponent doesn't get to draw a card the next turn. They already had this card, so now instead of drawing a new card, they're just getting something they already had, and they have to spend the mana a second time to develop it to the board, so it takes away card draw, and your opponent has to spend twice as much mana to play the 1 card, so it takes away really a full turn from your opponent, and also is going to simultaneously develop your board with a 3/4 with frontline. This is a very good card. It kind of fluctuates again between the so good and that's a great card, but I'm going to give it a great card status here, and we'll see how good it is indeed in the future. Because of cards like Blade of Whiteplane, which kill 3 mana cards or 3 strength cards, maybe it's just so good. But I think there's an argument that can be made that it belongs in the great card category. Then we've got Slaymaster Valka, Overkill. If you have fewer than 2 cards in hand, gain Blitz. So this one is very intriguing. If you play this in a deck that kind of tops out around 5 mana, I think this could be so good. Basically, you need to get rid of your whole hand, though, which is always risky. If you have nothing left in your hand, and you need to have 1 or 0 in your hand when you play this in order for it just to gain Blitz, it's going to be tough. But if you can do that, it has Overkill. So if your opponent has like a 1/1 on board, you can effectively do 5 damage to your opponent's face. So this kind of fluctuates in between could be cool maybe and so good. I'm going to put it in the could be cool maybe category. I think specific Viking decks that are very aggro heavy will like this to top out at 5 mana. I think it's going to be a very cool card to play. I don't think it's going to be groundbreaking, but it's a cool design and I like it. Then we got Rainkeeper Selena. After this creature attacks, summon a base copy of a random friendly wild creature with mana cost 3 or less. And on Roar, it summons 2/2/2 Rain Badgers with Blitz. So this is a 6 mana card. It spits out a grand total of 7/7 worth of stats. However, they're all teeny tiny little creatures. 2 2/2s and a 3/3. And in order for the 3/3 to do anything, it needs to live on the board for a full turn at 6 mana. That's asking quite a lot. I don't think that this is a good card at all. I think it's a bad card. You're not getting enough value at 6 mana. Next up, we got Snowshaper Palace, another 6 mana, 3/3 creature. Roar and ability, transform a creature into a 0/1 snow statue with can't attack. Now that's a creature. This one's pretty nuts. This could go in the that's a great card category. It could also go in the so good category. It's somewhere in between here, I think. Again, ability cards are pretty terrible generally, but it also has the Roar. So for 6 mana, you can transform a creature into a 0/1 snow statue, which can't attack. It can't do anything. It's just going to sit there. That's really strong. It is a 3/3, so it probably dies most of the time. You could basically replace a Ratify in your deck with Snowshaper Palace, and this is a Ratify that keeps on giving and that your opponent has to deal with. So it's definitely way better than like a Ratify, for instance, and I think it's going to be played in a lot of control Magic decks. It's definitely a really cool, strong card, and I like it. And last up, we've got Frost Queen Neferu, which is, again, another really cool design. It's a 4 mana 4/4. Each turn, after the first time your opponent draws a card, plays a card, uses their god power, and attacks with their relic, their god takes 2 damage. A 4 mana creature normally is a 4/5 with base stats. So that you're only sacrificing one stat here for a pretty crazy power, which is that every turn your opponent's going to draw a card, so they're going to take 2 damage. And then as long as you don't just play this when your opponent can just deal with the if they have creatures on board that can just kill this, you probably don't want to play it. So then they're going to need to play a card in order to kill it. That is now 4 damage to their god. If this survives even 2 turns, it's going to be a ton of value. If it only survives 1 turn, you're still getting your value worth for it. I don't know exactly which deck it fits in just yet, but it is definitely the type of card that you can build an entire deck around. It's obviously going to be in Nubian type decks, but I could see it even bleeding into other type decks as well. It's very strong. It could be a great card, could be so good. I'm going to fluctuate here, and I'm going to put it in the so good. Yeah, some of these are really good cards that it's going to really depend on which deck you're building, which deck you're playing against. But so there's a bunch of really good cards in this set. Some that could be very interesting. Fir Tree's Fury I'm interested to see, along with Winter's Bounty in some control nature decks. And there you have it. That is the tier list of Winter Wanderland. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.